Hi friends, my name is Nandita. I am from Andhra Pradesh.
Good morning dear students. Today we are going to discuss about excretory products and their elimination from chapter 19 CBSE syllabus class 11. Children, now let us discuss about urine formation. Urea formation occurs in liver through ornithine cycle or Krebs Henseleit cycle. From this synthesis of one molecule of urea, 3 ATP are consumed. One molecule of urea is formed by the two molecules of ammonia and one molecule of CO2. One molecule of ammonia comes from deamination of fat and other molecules of ammonia comes from aspartic acid. Urine formation. Urine formation involves mainly in three processes, that is glomerular filtration and ultrafiltration, selective reabsorption and secretion. Let us discuss ultrafiltration. The first step in urine formation is the filtration of blood, which is carried out by the glomerulus and it is called glomerular filtration. On an average, 1100 to 1200 ml of blood is filtered by the kidneys per minute, which constitute roughly 1/5 of the blood pumped out by each ventricle of the heart in a minute. The glomerular capillary blood pressure causes filtration of blood through three layers, that is the endothelium of glomerular blood vessels, the epithelium of Bowman's capsule and a basement membrane between these two layers. Blood is filtered so finely through these membranes that almost all the constituents of the plasma except the proteins pass on to the lumen of the Bowman's capsule. Therefore, it is considered as a process of ultrafiltration. The plasma fluid that filters out of the glomerulus capillaries into the Bowman's capsule of nephrons, and it is called glomerular filtrate. It is a non-colloidal part of possesses urea, water, glucose, amino acids, vitamins, fatty acids, uric acid, creatinine, toxins, salts, etc. RBC, WBC, platelets and plasma proteins are the colloidal part of the blood and do not get filtered out from glomerulus. Glomerulus filtrate is isotonic to blood plasma. Children, let us discuss about what is EFP. EFP means effective filter pressure, or we can also call net filter pressure. This net filter pressure is glomerular blood hydrostatic pressure minus the colloidal osmotic pressure of blood and capsular hydrostatic pressure. Children, now let us see what is glomerular blood hydrostatic pressure, which is also called GBHP. GBHP is the force that a fluid under pressure excretes against the walls of its container. Now let us say what is blood colloidal osmotic pressure, which is also called BCOP. BCOP is the osmotic pressure created in the blood of glomerular capillaries due to plasma proteins, albumin, globulin and fibrin. It resists the filtration of fluid from the capillaries. Now children, let us discuss what is capsular hydrostatic pressure. CHP is the pressure caused by fluid that reaches into Bowman's capsule and resists filtration. The amount of filtration formed by the kidneys per minute is called glomerular filtration rate, GFR. There is a sexual difference. In male the rate is about 120 to 125 milliliters per minute, that is 180 liters per day, and in females that is 110 milliliters per minute. GFR is affected by volume of circulating blood, neural activity, stretch response to pressure of the walls of the arteriole. 180 liters of filtrate is performed per day. Out of it, only 1.5 liters of urine is produced per day, which is 0.8% of the total filtrate. About 1250 milliliters of blood circulates through kidneys each minute, and of this blood about 670 milliliters is the plasma. The later it is called renal plasma, RPF. The renal plasma ratio is as below. Filtration fraction is equal to GFR, which is also called glomerular filtration rate, by renal plasma flow is equal to 120 by 670, that is equal to 0.17. The kidneys have built-in mechanism for the regulation of glomerular filtration rate. One such efficient mechanism is carried out by the extraglomerular apparatus, JGA. JGA is a special sensitivity region formed by cellular modification in the distal convoluted tubule and the afferent arteriole at the location of their contact. A fall in GFR can activate the JC cells to release renin, which can stimulate the glomerular blood flow and thereby GFR back to the normal. Children, now let us discuss about selective reabsorption. Reabsorption is a process due to which the useful constituents of the glomerular filtrate are returned into the bloodstream. The tubular epithelium cells in different segments of nephron perform this either by active or passive mechanisms, depend on the type of molecule being reabsorbed. During urine formation, the tubular cells secrete substance like KH+, H+ and ammonia into the filtrate. Tubular secretion is also an important step in the urine formation as it helps in the maintenance of ionic and acid base balance of body fluids. Most of the reabsorption takes place within the proximal convoluted tubule. Water and urea are reabsorbed by the passive transport by which they move from regions of higher concentrations of regions to lower concentrations. Water is reabsorbed by osmosis and urea by simple diffusion. Water is absorbed in all parts of tubule except the ascending loop of Henseleit. Glucose and amino acids are reabsorbed by active transport. The reabsorption of Na+ occurs by both passive and active transport. Children, now let us discuss about secretion. DCT and collecting tubules constitute the area of tubular secretion. It is active secretion or secretion of waste products from blood capillaries and intestinal fluid into lumen of nephron. It is the opposite of tubular reabsorption. The urine is formed in the nephron by a combination of glomerular filtration, tubular reabsorption, and tubular secretion. Children, once again discuss in detail about the functions of tubules. Proximal convoluted tubule, PCT, which already we discussed that it involves reabsorption by active transport, which is mainly due to a large surface area, a numerous mitochondria, and closeness of blood capillaries. Nearly all the essential nutrients and a 70 to 80% of electrolytes and water are reabsorbed by this segment. PCT also helps to maintain the pH and ionic balance of the body fluids by selective secretion of hydrogen ions, ammonia and potassium ions into filtrate and by absorption of HCO3 from it. Reabsorption in Henseleit loop is minimum. This region plays a significant role in the maintenance of high osmolarity of medullary interstitial fluid. The descending limb of the loop of Henseleit is permeable to water but almost impermeable to electrolytes. This concentrates the filtrate as it moves down. Conditional reabsorption of Na+ and water takes place in the distal convoluted tubule. DCT is also capable of reabsorption of HCO3 and selective secretion of hydrogen and potassium ions and NH3 to maintain the pH and sodium potassium balance in blood. Collecting duct extends from the cortex of the kidney to the inner parts of the medulla. Large amount of water could be reabsorbed from this region to produce a concentrated urine. This segment allows passage to small amounts of urea into the medullary interstitium to keep us osmolarity. It also plays a role in the maintenance of pH and ionic balance of blood by the selective secretion of H plus and K plus ions. Children, now let us discuss the mechanism of concentration of the filtrate. A counter current mechanism is the process due to which the urine is made hypertonic. Zootomaxillary nephrons are important in counter current mechanism. It is the exchange of Na plus ions between the two limbs of loop of Henseleit and those of vasa recta, means capillary parallel to Hen's loop. The filtrate gets concentrated as it moves down the descending limb but is diluted by the ascending limb. Electrolytes and urea are retained in the interstitium by this arrangement. DCT and collecting duct concentrate the filtrate about 4 times, that is from 300 milliliters to 1200 milliliters, and excellent mechanism of conservation of water. Children, now let us discuss about vasa recti. These are blood vessels running parallel to loop of Henseleit, forming a counter current system in medullary nephrons. There are the continuation of efferent arterioles. The slow of blood flow of vasa recta is responsible for maintaining the hyperosmolality of interstitium. Children, now let us discuss the regulation of kidney function. The hypothalamus, JGA, and a certain extent the heart regulate the function of the kidneys by hormonal feedback mechanism. Osmoreceptors in the body are activated by changes in blood volume, body fluid volume, and ionic concentration. An excessive loss of fluid from the body can activate these receptors, which stimulate the hypothalamus to release antidiuretic hormone vasopressin from the neurohypophysis. ADH increases water reabsorption by the distal tubule and collecting tubule, thereby preventing diuresis. An increase in body fluid volume can switch off the osmoreceptors and suppresses the ADH releases to complete the feedback. The ADH can also affect the kidney function by its constrictory effects on the blood vessels. This causes an increase in blood pressure. An increase in blood pressure can increase the glomerular blood flow and they can by GFR. Dehydration results in an increase in ADH, while water insufficient results in low ADH, allowing for diluted urine. Alcohol inhibits the secretion of ADH and thus increase water loss. Due to deficiency of ADH, a disease called diabetes insipidus is caused, in which the output of urine way reaches 3 to 40 liters per day in place of normal 1.2 to 1.8 liter per day. The JGA plays a complex regulatory role in renin angiotensin mechanism. A fall in glomerular blood flow, glomerular blood pressure, GFR, can activate the GG cells to release renin. An increase in blood flow to the atria of the heart can cause the release of atrial natriuretic factor. ANF can cause vasodilation, means distillation of blood vessels, and thereby decrease the blood pressure. ANF mechanism therefore act as a check on the renin anti-angiotensin mechanism. Children, now let us discuss the summary of events occurring in a nephron. Children, first we'll look into the materials transferred in traces, nephrons region, process involved, and mechanism. Come to the material transferred in traces like glucose, amino acids, protein, albumin, vitamins, hormones, Na+, K+, magnesium 2, Ca+, H2O, HCO3, urea, uric acid, certamine, and ketone bodies are transferred in traces. And these are transferred in nephron region like Bowman's capsule, and process involved as glomerular filtration, and mechanism is ultrafiltration. Then come to the glucose, amino acids, hormones, vitamins, Na plus, K plus, Mg plus 2, Ca plus 2. Observe in the region of proximal convoluted tubule, and process involved in reabsorption and mechanism is active transport. Then come to Cl. This is the region which we can observe in proximal convoluted tubule, and process involved in reabsorption and mechanism is passive transport. Come to the water. Water we can see in the region of proximal convoluted tubule, and we can see the process involved in reabsorption and mechanism is osmosis. Come to the material transfer traces in urea, or we can observe this in the region of proconvoluted tubule, and process involved in reabsorption and mechanism is diffusion. Come to H2O. It is we can observe this in the region of nephron called as narrow region of descending limb of Henseleit, and process involved is reabsorption and mechanism is osmosis. Then come to the material transferred in traces like Na plus, K plus, Mg plus 2, Ca plus 2, Cl minus. We can see these are in the region of nephrons like ascending limb of Henseleit, and process involved as reabsorption and mechanism is diffusion. Then come to the material transferred in traces like inorganic ions as wide part of ascending limb of Henseleit, and process involved in reabsorption and mechanism is active transport. Then come to the H2O. We can see the region in nephrons as a distal convoluted tubule, collecting duct, etc., and process involved in reabsorption with ADH and mechanism is osmosis. Then come to the material transferred in traces like Na plus. We can see this region in distal convoluted tubule, collecting duct, collecting tubule, etc., and process involved Na plus is reabsorption with aldosterone, help reabsorption, secretion, and mechanism is active transport. Then come to urea, the last part of collecting duct, reabsorption with aldosterone, help secretion and diffusion. Next come to the material transfers in traces like creatinine, hypuric acid, foraging substance, and we can see the region in proximal convoluted tubule, and the region process involved in reabsorption with aldosterone, help secretion, and mechanism is active transport. K plus and H plus, again we can say distal convoluted tubule, process involved in reabsorption with aldosterone, help secretion, and mechanism is active transport. Next come to NH3, distal convoluted tubule, process involved in reabsorption with the aldosterone, help secretion, and mechanism involved in diffusion. Next come to the urea. We can see urea in the region of nephron is ascending limb of Henseleit, thin pair, process involved in reabsorption of aldosterone, help secretion, and mechanism is diffusion.